When people think of the most dangerous places on Earth, Yellowstone National Park might not be the first thing that comes to mind. But this park holds one deadly secret. It has liquid, hotter than lava, that can dissolve human flesh. And it's not just this pool of flesh-melting doom. The entire park is full of superheated water and minerals. So what exactly is so dangerous about Yellowstone? Let's dig into this boiling disaster. Yellowstone is famous for its beauty, home to canyons, geothermal features, lakes, rivers, abundant wildlife, and more than half of the world's active geysers. But the most prominent feature of Yellowstone is its supervolcano. Its magma chamber sits beneath most of the park, and occasionally it rumbles back to life. In fact, it's the site of the largest volcanic eruption in the history of our planet. But don't worry too much. Even though scientists expect another super eruption sometime in the next 640,000 years or so, we're probably safe. A Yellowstone super eruption would change the entire planet and wouldn't just affect the US. It would have global effects on climate and agriculture. But there's no doubt that the immediate area would be completely devastated. So while the giant volcano might be the scariest part of Yellowstone, it's not the reason that people die there. The real danger is in the seemingly mundane. You see, over the millennia, the supervolcano has created vast deposits of hot spring water deep under the ground. This water reaches temperatures of around 200 degrees Celsius or 370 degrees Fahrenheit. To put that in perspective, the hottest oven you can buy is only around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And we use ovens to cook food, not melt human flesh. But this water doesn't burn people up. Instead, it dissolves them in a process known as saponification. Basically, when the hot water from Yellowstone interacts with the alkaline minerals in your body, it breaks down the fat molecules. This produces something similar to soap, which then causes your skin to fall apart. That sounds like a scene out of some horror movie, but it actually happened recently in 2020. A man was reported missing near Old Faithful, and a few days later, authorities found the remains of his car in a parking lot near Black Sand Basin. His body was never recovered, but DNA evidence showed that his remains had dissolved in one of these hot springs, likely due to saponification. And that's not the only time this has happened. There are numerous reports going back decades of bodies being dissolved by Yellowstone's mysterious waters. But these pools aren't as simple as they seem. They're not all that hot. If you were to accidentally stumble into the Black Sand Basin, you'd find that the water is only lukewarm. That's because these pools are filled with cold groundwater that's been pushed deep underground by pressure from the magma chamber. Eventually, the water reaches temperatures of around 200 degrees Celsius, at which point it starts picking up minerals along the way. These minerals are mostly silica, calcium, sodium, and potassium, but there are also smaller amounts of arsenic, boron, lithium, zinc, and more. This mixture of minerals is called geothermal brine, and it makes up much of the water that eventually reappears in Yellowstone's hot springs and geysers. But once the water starts interacting with the minerals in your body, things can get pretty bad. Remember, it's not the heat itself that kills people. It's the chemical reaction between the water and their body. So why do some pools dissolve people and others don't? Well, it depends on the chemistry. You see, the water that makes its way deep underground will pick up more and more dissolved minerals until it reaches saturation. At this point, any additional heat won't increase the temperature of the water, but instead will increase the concentration of dissolved minerals. When the water reaches the surface again, it will deposit some of those minerals, and the water that emerges will be extremely corrosive. Take the Black Sand Basin, for example. Most of its water is around 37 degrees Celsius, but its pH is around 9, meaning that it's mildly alkaline. By comparison, pure water has a pH of 7, and anything above 10 is considered strongly alkaline. Another pool in Yellowstone, the aptly named cistern, has water that's almost boiling, but its pH is closer to 5, making it slightly acidic. The difference between these two pools isn't the temperature of the water, but rather its mineral content. Since the water in the cistern is more acidic, it's unlikely to kill you through saponification. Instead, if you were to fall in, you'd be met with intense pain and possible third-degree burns. The black sand basin is slightly alkaline and around 370 degrees Fahrenheit, so it would quickly dissolve your entire body. Similarly, there's a place called the Mushroom, which has water that's around 180 degrees Fahrenheit, but it has a pH of 9.2. That means that this pool could dissolve you in around 15 minutes. Or take the Excelsior geyser crater. Its water is only 190 degrees Fahrenheit, but its pH is between 8 and 9, meaning that it could dissolve you in around an hour. Now that we understand that it's the pool's chemistry, not just its temperature, that determines whether or not it's dangerous, let's look at what happens when people fall in. In 1984, a woman named Colleen Springer accidentally fell into the Abyss pool. It was around 100 degrees outside, and Colleen decided to go for a walk. She was exploring an area of Yellowstone that wasn't part of the usual tourist trail, and suddenly she slipped and fell into the scalding water. Luckily, she was close to a ranger station and was soon airlifted to a hospital. Her body was covered with second-degree burns, but she made a full recovery. What's really interesting about this case is that she survived even though the water temperature was over 200 degrees Celsius. That's because Colleen was wearing a denim jacket and jeans, which protected her from the worst of the water's corrosive power. On the other hand, in 1991, a man named Robert Davis was hiking in Yellowstone when he lost his footing and fell into the boiling river. He was only submerged for about 10 seconds, but the water's temperature was around 212 degrees Fahrenheit. This is just 8 degrees hotter than the temperature of boiling water at sea level. But at higher elevations, water boils at lower temperatures. Robert's body was covered in second-degree burns, and he died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. In both cases, the people who fell in were wearing similar clothing, but Robert ended up dying while Colleen lived. Why? Well, it's all in the water. Robert fell into the boiling river, which has a pH of around 2.5. That's as acidic as vinegar. On the other hand, Colleen fell into the Abyss pool, which has a pH of around 7. The difference between these two pH levels is huge, and it's why Robert ended up dying while Colleen survived. There's yet another factor at play here, though. Robert fell into the river at an elevation of over 6,200 feet. Higher elevations mean lower atmospheric pressure, which lowers the boiling point of water. And since water is one of the key factors in determining how dangerous a pool is, that means that pools at higher elevations are more dangerous. Robert Davis fell into a pool that was only 8 degrees hotter than boiling water, but its high acidity meant that it killed him instantly. And Colleen Springer fell into a pool that was over 200 degrees Celsius, but its neutral pH meant that she survived. Knowing this, you might wonder if there are pools in Yellowstone that are hot enough to kill you quickly, but whose chemistry won't dissolve your body. And the answer is yes. Take the Underbiscuit Spring, for example. Its water is around 212 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hot enough to cause second-degree burns in less than a minute. However, the pH of the water is around 2.5, which means that it would kill you very quickly, but wouldn't dissolve your body. Ultimately, Yellowstone is one of the most amazing places in the world, but its beauty hides a dangerous secret. If you fell into the wrong pool, you might be burned alive, but your body would survive and become a tasty treat for scavengers. So if you ever visit Yellowstone, be careful where you step. Thanks for watching.